So I get asked this a lot. Are narcissists confident? And I'm talking more about the overt and extroverted narcissist, okay? Not the coverts, okay? Because coverts, they navigate a little bit differently, but nonetheless, their goals are still the same. And I will make a separate video on that. But I'm talking about the more obvious, the ones that are more outgoing, the ones that are more charismatic, the ones that people want to be around all the time. These are the ones I'm talking about. They can come off as confident, right? But here's the thing. They mirror people. And what that means is that they study your body language and copy that. They study the way you talk and they copy that. They like the same things that you do all of a sudden and they copy that. And it's to keep a foot in the door in case they need something, in case they need sex, money, validation, admiration, so on. You know, they mirror people. So in that sense, it's like they're kind of faking it to make it, you know? And another thing is like that's manipulating to control outcomes, okay? So there's no integrity in that. And another thing too is that they cannot connect with people on a deep level. You know, they cannot really step themselves in other people's shoes and understand them. And that's a lonely, lonely, lonely life. Think about it. How could someone be confident when they're constantly lonely in a weird sense? That's why they constantly need a lot of people around. That's why they have harems, like I mentioned before, you know, which is like a bunch of people waiting in the background in case they need them. And another thing, too, is that they don't have a real identity. They have a personality, but that personality is tainted with their narcissism. And so, with that being said, it's like they don't have a true identity. Their personality is how they conduct themselves, the way they talk, you know, how they navigate, whether they're extroverted, introverted. That's a personality style. Okay, so they have a personality. An identity is the true essence of who you are that remains consistent. And they don't have that. And that's one of the biggest things of why they're so unhappy, because they have to put on this facade, okay? It's called a mask. So they're putting on a mask and they're covering up the ugliness within, okay? They want people to see, you know, the mask, like what they pretend to be. So think about that, doing that your whole life. And especially for a narcissist, if they're a full-blown narcissist, they've been doing it as a child, okay? And it could be from trauma. It could be from being overly indulged, where like they kind of lost identity because their parents pushed them to be something that they're not, so they didn't develop their personalities completely and their identities. And so think about that. That's completely misery for someone, you know, that's going through that. And another thing too, egocentrism is not the same as self-esteem. Self-esteem comes from you. It's self-produced. You don't need anyone to self-validate yourself, to give you self-esteem. That's why it's called self-esteem. You do that yourself. Egocentrism is not confidence. Okay? Self-esteem is. Egocentrism is a protection of oneself, you know, in the eyes of others. You know, that's why a lot of times it's like a lot of people who are super centric, they cannot admit when they're wrong because they're protecting themselves, you know. And it doesn't mean they're narcissistic if you have a big ego. A lot of people have big egos, trust me. And so, but my point is that it's a heavy egocentrism where there is no self-esteem in it. And that's something that the narcissist has. No self-esteem, but ego. Huge egos. And another thing too. How can you be confident and happy when you're pathologically unhappy most of the time? That's why you literally need people to exist. This is the narcissist. They literally need people to exist. If they don't have these people around most of the time, they go into something that's called a narcissistic collapse. What that is that when they have no one, they can go through a stage of psychosis. And this is in a literal sense. They could be suicidal. And That's why they always have to have people around. That's why they manipulate. That's why they mirror people. That's why they come off as charismatic most of the time and well liked. It's because they're faking it the whole time because they're trying to mask their misery. Okay? And this goes back to their childhood. Narcissists are not born. They're made. And for whatever reason, they just never got past that. They never healed their trauma. And this is for most narcissists, because some of them are overindulged, but nonetheless, they're still narcissists. But for most, they never healed their trauma. And they continue their lives for the rest of their lives because this is already a pathological disorder. There's no cure to it. So imagine living like that for your whole life. You're going to be miserable. They come off as confident, but deep down, they're miserable for a lot of the points that I made earlier, okay? And once you start understanding that, of course, some people will feel sorry for them and stuff like that, but they'll continue to hurt people. They'll continue being, super selfish and, destructive to their environment around them, people around them. And one thing that you got to be grateful for is that you actually have the chance for genuine happiness and confidence. One thing about the narcissist that they'll never have is genuine happiness and confidence. The confidence and happiness that they're displaying is just an illusion.